There are many different ways to describe a particular gaming experience. In this case, I find the most applicable descriptor to be exactly that, an experience. Proteus, by Ed Key and David Kanaga of Twisted Tree Games, is a rather unusual take on adventure gaming as we know it. Without the slightest bit of explanation or instruction, your trek is initiated as you open your eyes to find yourself in the middle of a vast sea, as in the barely visible distance before you sits an island, patiently awaiting your arrival on its shores. Once you set foot on land, the air around you seems to shift, as dreamlike audio begins to manifest, as if emanating from the landscape itself. From this point on, it's up to you to decide what you'll find. It's upon this simple and nearly non-existent premise that you as the player unfold the strange venture ahead. Beginning this review on gameplay leaves me in a peculiar spot. Since its release in early 2013, and quite possibly even before then, this game has been the topic of extensive debate, the reasons for which we'll be chronicling, whether intentionally or otherwise, in this video. The beginning of the discussion is found in how the game is played, as there are only two major commands used for the entirety of your playtime: movement and direction. That's it. As an experience focused almost entirely on exploration and discovery, these most basic of controls extend not much further than this, with the exception of the ability to sit. Yet, it's that last seemingly random command that sort of emphasizes the real point of the whole experience. While most games center on following stories or accomplishing specific goals and challenges, Proteus takes a strange move in that your primary objective is to observe, to equate oneself with this unique environment as if you were taking a walk through a forest in the real world. Let's be clear now, though, that this world is not an entirely placid one. As you dive into this odd procedurally generated landscape, different every time you begin anew, you find that the dreamy sounds constantly at work therein truly are coming from the land itself. Every single piece of flora, fauna, and even earth has a voice to be heard, and it's in this realization that one's curiosity becomes piqued, and this strange place begins revealing even more secrets, as the simple mechanics of getting around prove to be all that are needed to awaken this world in ways completely unexpected upon arrival. It's only natural then that the game's artistic presentation is examined so much more readily. Visually, the entire locale is like a massive contradiction of itself. Everything is completely built of quite visible pixels, yet most of it is still constructed in 3 dimensions, placing itself at a bizarre median between a very real place and a massive pop-up book. Meanwhile, the colors and details within the image of each entity and object are especially vivid and expressive, but completely singular and flat. With this very confusing art style, reminiscent of gaming days gone by and yet still completely unique, it's hard to believe just how immersive the project manages to be. The audible experience is no less strange by any means, as everything around you, from raindrops to falling flower petals to stone structures, sings out in one fashion or another, managing to create a continuous string of songs that ring out through the whole of your time in the game. Some entities create sounds of chiptune familiarity, while others utter instrumentation that seems to come straight from a real-world orchestra. At times, this resounding conglomerate is peaceful and relaxing. Other times, it is unsettling and ominous, but never is it out of place or disconnected. On the contrary, the joint function of visuals and audio manages to create a beautiful portrait, even producing a light bit of synesthesia, an experience where one human sense relates directly to another. The game's story is of a different sort altogether. While it almost seems like it doesn't want to be unearthed, there are details hidden within the environment itself that, when unleashed, begin to weave a narrative as intriguing as the landscape in which it resides. What may or may not create a bit of discord in some, though, is just how little is truly revealed. There are so many pieces in so many places that one can't help but feel a continuous sense that there's more to be found in spite of their efforts, and when the elements are revealed, it's difficult to tell what exactly they are meant to be saying. Still, even as it is a difficult process in attempting to find and tie all these ends together, it does provide a stimulating objective that may take more than a single quick run-through to fully achieve. So, with all this accounted for, very light gameplay, beautifully strange artwork, and a progression of time and story that is almost entirely subjective, it's about time we address the earlier mentioned debate. It's abundantly clear that this is an art game if ever there was one, and naturally that means there will likely be much distinction between gamers who enjoy it and gamers who don't. Still, the project in question is so different and artsy in nature that people have been questioning whether it's a game at all. Video games are known to be interactive efforts in entertainment, with goals to achieve, stories to tell, characters to meet, and skills to sharpen. And while this project has semblances of all of these things, it hones in entirely on exploration and veers far away from the general consensus of what a video game looks like. So then, the question remains whether this item is a game, or artwork, or something else entirely. While I can't speak for the whole of the gaming community, I can state my own opinion on the matter, and my response is to say that yes, it truly is a game, and yes, it truly is a piece of art as well. At their core, most video games are pieces of art in and of themselves, lovingly crafted by writers, coders, artists, musicians, and dreamers of many calibers. They have the potential to breach the minds and hearts of their observers, providing engaging rest and compelling reflections of life and truth. And while they each do so in distinctive ways, their validity as a game or as art are not diminished simply because they lean toward the definition of one more than the other. That's why I choose to describe Proteus specifically as an experience. It defies the understanding of what a game can be, and yet proves the length of what art can be. While it grips you and pulls you into a world both unreal and often indecipherable, it manages to reflect very real images of wonder, discovery, and adventure. Through unconventional avenues, it calls to mind the beauty of the natural world and the potential contained therein, and by unusual means, it shares a look at the passing of time and the nature of change. Some may find it too strange for their tastes, but as for this reviewer, what makes it strange makes it wondrous, and as a whole, the journey it sets you on is worth a trip or two back to its distant shores.